On the 1st of April 1976, Apple's Computers was established by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in a garage in California, and quickly became one of the world's most renowned and admired success stories. The company has always had a competitive advantage over their competitors through its unparalleled levels of innovation. Apple was credited with the development of the world's first all-purpose desktop PC, the Apple II, in 1978. Apple has always been a company synonymous with bold ideas and advancements, pushing the limits of modern technology, and are an innovator and leader within the technological community. With a net worth of $750 billion and with sales of nearly 220 billion as of May 2017, Apple is certainly a dominant force in the computer hardware industry. When Apple broke into the mobile phone industry in 2007, it was the only phone operating through the iOS operating system, and the phone would support a third-party mobile phone application using the Safari internet search engine. At the time in Australia, Nokia had just lost a significant proportion of their domestic market share to Motorola, with Motorola having 71% of the market share in Australia and Apple only having 8.1%. However, during the next 2 years, Apple would position itself in the market as a must-have through innovative technological advancements and effective marketing. Innovative improvements to the original functionality of a phone was fundamental to Apple's future market share. In addition to the ability to make and receive phone calls and text messages, which all phones did, the Apple iPhone enabled video calling, aptly known FaceTime, 5-megapixel camera, and internet access. It is also the only phone to have iTunes and App Store, which with some applications only being available through the Apple-owned iTunes App Store. This feature led to the iPhone being one of the most desirable new products of late 2000s and led it to be the dominant force in the mobile phone market. However, with Samsung innovating their Galaxy line of mobile phones, Apple needs to create changes, keeping up to date to ensure that they stay on top of the phone market share within Australia.
Throughout the production and launch of the iPhone, Apple were faced with numerous challenges and issues. Some of these issues may still affect Apple in the future and include things such as HRM, leadership styles, innovation, and the general environment at the time. In respect to leadership, Apple faced a potential issue in that the leadership of Steve Jobs was much different to the leadership of those with a large market share within the sector. Jobs used a more autocratic style of leadership that stemmed from his expertise on operating systems gained from his work within Apple Macintosh computers. This is in contrast to Motorola, who used groupthink when addressing defects. This may have been an issue due to the fact that these companies had ongoing dialogue with their customers in order to fix their defect and thus improve the product in the eyes of the consumers. This is in direct contrast to the leadership style of Jobs, who did not conduct market research. In his mind, he thought customers would like what he told them to like. Steve Jobs' leadership style also had a major influence on the HRM of the business, thus influencing employees within the business. His leadership style resulted in the engineers of the iPhone having very little room for compromise when designing the features that would set the iPhone out from the competition. This presented an issue as if the employees to create the features without compromise, manufacturing costs would increase and employee happiness would decrease, thus resulting in a much poorer triple bottom line and less of a competitive advantage. The major drawcard of the iPhone could be seen to be the fact that they were an innovative company on the bleeding edge of technology. As a result of this, many people flocked away from their Nokia phones to the iPhone as a result of innovative features such as a rear and front-facing camera, Retina display, and App Store. However, this could present an issue in the future as a rival competitor such as Samsung may create a feature that would lead to Apple's market share being reduced. The general environment can be seen to be compromised of environmental, economical, technological, and political. The technological environment at the time of the iPhone was based around small phones with limited potential to send messages, make calls, and not much else. The economic environment at the time was extremely volatile due to the GFC. As a result of this, many households were less likely to make purchases on a luxury item such as an iPhone. This was an issue for Apple as there was potential for people to stick with their cheaper Nokias and not buy the iPhone.
Apple at the time would have encountered many issues and hurdles related to strategic management when they launched the iPhone. They would have had to consider their internal and external environments and how they would react to the bold strategy of focusing on phone innovation and how to cope with any concerns that stakeholders may have had. Apple would have had to also consider the correct strategy to implement into the corporation and the processes that occur from top-level management right up to the assemblers of the phone. Within the aspect of decision making, Apple had to choose between being innovative in their industry and become complacent with what they do, or become innovative and tackle on the established giants within the phone industry. They also had to evaluate whether or not the decision being made was timely, beneficial, and cost effective to their operations, otherwise it may not have been worth the effort for Apple. Apple also had to consider control, as before they released the iPhone they had to set objectives for the phone. They then had to see if the actual sales met their objectives, and then they then had to make changes to their product to ensure their success. Control strategies that Apple may have used include feed-forward controls, which would have occurred before work began on the iPhone, and setting concurrent controls to ensure that what occurs during the work process meets the requirements of Apple. Otherwise, the launch of the iPhone may have been a disaster.
Good business strategy is a foundational key to long-term success and growth for a company. Factors such as market fragmentation, deregulation, product differentiation, and globalization have highlighted the emphasis managers need to place on strategic management for organizational success. The strategic management process has to essentially formulate strategy and implement it. A formal document can contain long-term goals and how resources will be used in achieving these while accounting the changing environment. This is, ultimately, to gain competitive advantage, allowing companies to outperform competitors. Corporate, business, functional, and master plans are utilized while different models assess and evaluate environment for a strategy to be devised. The importance of strategic management in Apple's case is clear. To continue dominating the smartphone market and have an edge over its competitors, Apple needs to consider the organization and environment to outperform its competitors and strategize for competitive advantage. Teams and teamwork are prominent in the modern organization today. Human capital is a great asset to business, and if taken advantage of, provides a great benefit to the organization. Now, a team is a collection of people who work together in pursuit of a common goal, and teamwork is the process of these people collaborating. There are many different types of teams which all progress through developmental stages within an organization. Team decision making occurs in many ways, offering advantages to business. However, liabilities such as groupthink need be avoided. Apple faces the possibility of losing their market share, and therefore needs an edge over their competition. Now, utilizing teams in their organization, Apple can combine human capital and therefore can provide this edge. The purpose of leading and managing change is for organizations to be innovative in changing but competitive global industries. Now, this clearly relates to Apple and their iPhone, where the market is constantly experiencing change due to new technologies and globalization. An organization that successfully manages change values the people, values, and systems of the organization and supports innovation to cater for change. Innovation empowers people's ideas to be transformed to product or process that better caters to consumer, and it therefore improves the company's success. The nature of organizational change includes tasks, people, structure, culture, and technologies. Now, Apple truly is in an age of change. There's technology, there's societal values, packaging, sustainability, ethics, and the list goes on. It is important for Apple to recognize where and how to change in order to be leaders in their field and in their product of the iPhone.
Within any business, there are going to be regular ongoing problems that influence the overall functioning of the company. Relevant management theories and leadership styles can be demonstrated to overcome these problems and result in an improved working environment. Apple's founder and former CEO Steve Jobs often demonstrated an autocratic leadership style, heavily influencing human resource management and employees within the business. As engineers had little input into the design and development of products, Jobs should have implemented the leadership participation theory, as this would have allowed other input and informative decisions to be made to produce the best possible product. Apple's most popular product line, the iPhone, displays many aspects of bleeding-edge technology, resulting in owning most of the smartphone market share. With the first release of the iPhone, it allowed other companies to introduce similar features into their product lines. With Apple's creative, innovative features, they should implement the scenario planning theory, which allows companies to plan for different scenarios. In this case, with the release of the iPhone and its innovative ideas, planning for other companies to introduce similar ideas would allow Apple to introduce more features and maintain most of the market share. Apple experienced many environmental problems, with the general environment comprised of economic, technological, political, and environmental factors. At the time of the first iPhone release, the GFC impacted the sales of the product, as many people did not have the funds for a luxury product. For this, the implementation of the lean manufacturing theory would reduce production waste and result in the highest possible products at such a tough time financially. Strategic management involves formulating and implementing strategies within the workplace to improve employee performance and productivity. At the release time of the iPhone, Apple would have to consider the correct strategy to implement into the corporation, from top-level management to phone assemblers. For this, Apple would have to implement the management by objectives theory, for all employees and managers to work together to set, record, and monitor goals for a specific period. Apple's decision-making has made them what they are today. Their risky decisions to innovate have paid off and resulted in iPhone controlling most of the market share. Apple's decision-making problems should have been implemented with the leadership participation theory, as this would have allowed other input and informative decisions to be made to produce the best possible product. Apple have many control measures in place to record business, product, and employee performance. Before the release of the iPhone, executives had to set objectives such as revenue and market share objectives. For this, Apple should have implemented the feed-forward control strategy, which would have set requirements for the iPhone to meet, in other words, sales.
We have three key objectives when it comes to solving the problems that Apple and the iPhone have. The first addresses Steve Jobs' expertise-based product development style. Because Jobs had a lot of expertise on technology, he believed that he knew what was best for his customers. This, coupled with his charisma, could have led to groupthink, a dangerous phenomenon for any business. To overcome this issue, Apple should aim to increase the amount of resources given to market research and customer consultation so that they know the customer's needs, wants, and demands, and ensure that they don't get too caught up in what they think the iPhone should be. To gain market insight, Apple needs to build strong relationships with its customers, who can then provide an ongoing dialogue with Apple, providing feedback on what works well, what doesn't, and what they would like to see in the future. After collecting this information, the next objective is to implement it into the technology and the designs. Now, the second key objective addresses innovation. For Apple to survive in the ever-changing technology market, it must facilitate the only constant, change. To do this, and not suffer the same fate as Nokia, Apple should aim to bring in different engineers and designers who can give different angles to the iPhone. To utilize these human resources effectively, Apple should refer to Hamel's wheel of innovation and implement it, through first holding group brainstorming sessions to come up with new ideas, then testing these ideas through consultation both internally within the organization and externally through consulting customers. Next, developing prototypes and experimenting with the design, and then assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the change and finding out if it is viable or not. And finally, implementing the idea into the new iPhone and manufacturing it. Through pushing for innovation in every aspect of the phone, Apple can ensure the market share stays the same or even grows. The last objective explores how Apple should implement better management strategy. Steve Jobs' autocratic and expertise-based approach to leadership was both a blessing and a curse to the business. Steve Jobs was known as a control freak and did not want compromises on any part of the iPhone. This resulted in an excellent phone, but his relationship with the engineers was an issue. As previously stated, his no-compromise attitude in design led to compromises in other areas, such as economic viability and pricing points. The objective in solving this issue is for jobs to come from a more consultative approach rather than autocratic. This would involve consulting with a board for decisions rather than just deciding what should be done yourself. By having experts from varying sectors, such as financing, a marketing team member, an engineer, and a manufacturing expert come together to discuss important aspects of the phone, Apple can make more holistic solutions and designs. Short term. Task: product innovations. Product innovation as a short-term objective will allow Apple to ensure they do not become static in the mobile phone industry, and instead strive to continuously innovate to maintain the competitive advantage they already hold. Medium-term. Task: managing technological change. The Apple iPhone's inclusion of FaceTime, internet access, and applications such as Facebook and iTunes reflect the company's awareness of technological change. It is the responsibility of management to constantly gather new information in relation to technological change and ensure that Apple is at the forefront of implementing these changes into their iPhone products. Evidence of Apple managing technological change is the frequent updates to its iOS operating system. Long-term. Task: organizational development. Organizational development will improve Apple's ability to problem solve and to deal with its environment. Organizational development will help to prevent loss of market share to its competitors, like was the case with Nokia and Motorola. Teams and teamwork. Short-term. Task: cross-functional teams. Cross-functional teams allow interaction between departments, such as between engineering and design. The combination of knowledge and skills from different areas combine to produce the best possible product. This can be seen through the iPhone. Not only is the iPhone capable of fulfilling the role of a computer through internet and email access, and can fit in your pocket and is easily transportable. This is evidence of engineering and design working together. Medium term. Task: international teams. With Apple's iPhone being made available worldwide, it is crucial that Apple has access to international teams. International employees will allow the company to interact effectively with international markets to deliver specified services and assistance to all international iPhone users. Long-term. Task: synergy. If Apple achieves synergy, it will have more resources for problem solving, improved quality of decision making, greater commitment to tasks, and higher motivation through collective action. Strategic management. Short-term. Task: strategic management goals. Apple must set strategic goals to allow them to maximize profit and maintain a competitive advantage over its competitor. Medium term. Task: growth and diversification strategies. The ability to grow the iPhone as a product will allow Apple to increase its market share with the implementation of diversification strategies. Apple will attract even more new customers. Long-term. Task: sustainable strategic competitiveness. Through sustainable strategic competitiveness, Apple will put measures in place to sustain their competitive advantage and ensure they remain the holder of the majority of market share.